My name is Michael Wieder. I am Dean of St. Joseph's Cathedral. So there's two poems that I juxtapose. One is called My Cape Town, and it's about the way Cape Town is African and yet not in the kind of cliched way. So my Cape Town is not an African city like Joburg, Dakar, like Abidjan or Cairo. It is African like Manenberg, like a bullet-borne message from the motherland of dread to the mansions on Caviar Hill saying, we are here, you can't forget us. So if you look at the particular and the peculiar way that Cape Town is, there is this dance aberration of the tango, and it's called jazzing. And it is a colored dance format. So colored people jazz, so-called colored people, maybe they ballet, Igviti, but it comes out of a conversation that I had telephonically with Jackie Job, the dancer. I don't know what specifically she said, but it led me to this poem, bearing in mind who and what is Cape Town in Africa. Tell me who taught you to jazz? That two-step samba sass of your teenage years. Was it on a Saturday at the Galaxy when you stole with a listening glance the basic moves as Herb Albert's rise? It arose just round about the time when the president announces the national state of disaster. So we're looking about March. And it's also the most intense period in Christendom because we're looking at the Lenten preparatory weeks that leads to Easter. And then it also culminates eventually a few weeks later with Eid. So I had a very intense sense of just as a city and the emptiness of the city. In the book of the prophet Jeremiah, it talks about how lonely are your streets, and that kind of was mimicked in our own lives. So emotionally I went from periods of great sense of desolation and of anxiety, just in terms of my own health. I was 62 then, I'm 63 now. And I'm moving also to my birthday in October. So there's a whole lot of sense that we had to abandon the kind of liturgies, the lighting of what we call the Easter candle, and all the festivities that goes with that sense of Opiberg, and then culminating in our own personal Jerusalem, the Mount Zion. And I think the lockdown was also a bittersweet something to consume because there was a great sense of loss, and yet also the compulsion of the inner journey gave rise to lockdown, love, and lament. So I think what darkness compels us to look, in Islam we talk about the nur, your inner light, and darkness leads you to your inner light. And there's a kind of great journey of inward discovery, from bleakness to a greater sense of anxiety, because you don't necessarily appreciate this hidden part of you that is being revealed. But it also unlocks from the archives of your memory stories and incidents, and the gift of poetry is being able to distill it, to crystallize it in a way that is a conversation that you almost, this is inside. No, I think it's really a wonderful time in that where the teacher now has to become the student, and to be taught by the technology of the 21st century and the art of communication, where again within an oral tradition there's a lot of stories and there's a lot of kind of dialectic engagement with a congregation, how they respond, and so if they laugh or they nod, it opens up for you also your story and so on. But then that makes for a tendency to give a 40-minute, 20-minute sermon, and the attention span of somebody that's on the receiving end is not as long, because social media has also guided them to get to the point, you know. So we have also, as communicators, be quite reductionist. What is essential? We had to go counterculture to our formation and even our own experience. So what social media did, because now everything that we do is live streamed. Our Sunday services, both the morning and the evening, and then our evening prayer is live streamed, because people are not flocking back. We are open for worship now. Our main service would get about 250. If we eat 50 now, that's a lot, right? So I've had to look at myself, the way I use my hands was all over the place. It was like people were worried about, you know, where are you going with all this, lots of the tone of voice, and you had to pare down to that you don't become a distraction to the communication. And that's been I think it's a wonderful way of rebuilding the church without walls and beyond the physical range of your voice and the way it's electronically, because now you amplified. Somebody in Manchester sends a note to say, we really appreciated what was sung or what was said. So the kind of transnational nature of communication has also become a gift. Of course, it doesn't take away a non-virtual, the sense, you know, the smell, the creaking of the chair, the sound of the traffic outside beyond the thick walls of this. That can never be replaced, you know. A walk on the beach can never be virtually. You can have a sense of it, but not the experience. But we will have to live with that tension. I think particularly if you are writing poetry or writing a story, you know, there's also doubt. You know, what am I saying? Does it make sense, you know? So there's a self-interrogation, a very necessary one. But when it's done in isolation from other interaction, then it can be quite self-defeatist. And then what I did when I had a kind of possible manuscript, I sent it to Barbara Boswell, the writer. And I really love her book, Grace, and so forth. And the fact that we come from the same neck of the woods of that end of the Cape Flats, Alsace River. And she looked at it and came back with very positive, affirming response. And that's the other thing that I have found. The generosity and compassion within society is also there within the artistic community. It's a kind of, I find a lot of collaborative affirmation from people like Diana Ferris and others whose work I greatly admire. And then I approached a fellow by the name of Andre Wooden, a good friend of mine, and his publishing process is African Lives, and he brought it under his table and so forth. So he identified the layout artist, the graphic designer, and the editor, and so on. And so it was also, but because of the intensity of wanting to get it out as soon as possible, because I had this fear and the anxiety, is this an evergreen, or is it only a little flower growing in the desert that will soon be overcome by the harsh newness of post-lockdown? And then you realize, didn't is so. You know, this coronavirus is mutating. It's becoming more effective. It's got its own intelligence. And I realized that what I've had, and I don't think I'll be able to replicate that, because I've been reading it, and somebody quotes something, and then I realize they're quoting me, and I don't recognize it again, because you've moved on from this darkness and also the intensity that enables you to see life very differently. So the book ends on Mother's Day, which wasn't intentional, but ek was moeg, né? Because I also thought I need to get this thing out. Because I've got many publications in my head, many books, I've got about maybe 3 volumes of poetry.
As somebody who's just completed a book, I can tell you it's quite a process. So for Father Mike Weeder to have produced a book during the course of lockdown, it's truly remarkable. For more content like this, visit loudhousemedia.co.za. I'm Gesante Bader.